If it's one thing I've learned about video games, it's this. Always expect the unexpected. We saw this happen when Microsoft went around and bought Bethesda, then bought Activision Blizzard King, and even bought other studios as well. We saw the same thing happen when PlayStation was putting their games onto Steam and even on PC, opening their games up to an entirely new market and everybody enjoying everything across the board, until they pulled the plug on that too. So clearly we have a history of the gaming industry doing a lot of things that honestly don't really make a lot of sense, either business-wise or even fanboy-wise. And that's where things get really insane. With PlayStation announcing the end of physical media starting in 2028, everybody has been looking to one company to see if they would do the one thing everybody's been hoping they would do. And that is, of course, for Xbox to pull a PlayStation. One of the big things that everybody's been talking about lately is for Xbox to finally have exclusives back on their platform again, removing their games from PlayStation, no longer giving access to other competitors in the space of their tentpole title IPs, making people want to buy the actual hardware, even though we've seen time and time again, exclusives won't be the factor that makes people want to buy a system. Now it's going to be value and actual ownership. And you know what? Don't worry. Later on in the video, we're basically going to prove that point pretty much directly. But the topic about exclusives has been pretty contentious lately as well, with many people wanting exclusives back on Xbox's platform, and they've been trying to deliver. Gears of War E-Day is no longer going to be on PlayStation 5, and the trailer for it looks pretty good actually. In fact, the multiplayer beta has been getting a lot of really good traction from the people that in fact got to playtest it, and the closed beta is coming out soon, as well as the open beta as well. And I'm kind of excited. Gears looks really good, unlike Halo Campaign Evolved, which didn't look good at all or even enjoy playing when I'm almost done with it. But it's also not just Gears, it's also Clockwork Revolution as well. In Exile's game is also not going to be on PlayStation 5 either, and that's been sort of like the beginning bell for everybody. People saying that they want exclusives back on the platform, people saying that it's going to be the thing that sells consoles. Well, we're going to see if it actually matters, because Xbox just had their price increase impact all of their systems recently, and hitting $800 to $900 on a system that is actually 6 years old and used to retail for $500 isn't really a good bet overall, no matter how many exclusive games are behind that plastic box. But this idea of ownership and exclusives doesn't just stop there. Apparently, Digital Foundry also has some information talking about what Xbox might do with physical media moving forward. Check this out. With Idle Sloth on Twitter posting, rumor, John Linneman said he heard from a couple of sources that Microsoft was very much going to continue disc support before the Xbox reset. He heard that Microsoft was actually very much going to continue disc support, not because they value disc retail sales, but because they wanted to ensure that all your Xbox games will still be playable on new Xboxes. He mentioned that Xbox, quote, could offer maybe like an external drive or basically some means, and I think that it all might tie into the disc-to-digital stuff as well. Also speculated that he sees a, quote, future where Microsoft supports physical games going forward for users that want to take their library with them, while Sony just completely cuts people off.
What's interesting, Rich, one thing I'd heard from a couple sort of sources, and this is just kind of like, you know, potential rumory stuff, but at least before the current Xbox reset, I don't know where it is now, it sounds like Microsoft was actually very much going to continue disc support, not because they valued retail disc sales, but because they wanted to like ensure that all your Xbox games were still playable on new Xboxes. Right. And it's like, oh, we could offer maybe like an external drive or basically some means. And I think that might all tie into this disc to digital stuff as well. But I get this feeling that they actually, especially given their reaction, I'm not saying they're going to solve problems or anything drastic going to change, but I do see a future where Microsoft actually supports discs going forward for users that want to take their library with them, while Sony just completely cuts people off.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Let's move on.
Now, already that would be a huge W for Xbox overall. Even if the Helix was going to be all digital, what you're looking at instead is the ability for people who have physical media to still play their games on that platform. Whether it's Xbox utilizing things like Play Anywhere, where if you buy the digital game on their storefront, you can play it on your Xbox or even on your PC as well, or your Xbox ROG Ally, which in fact is very cool if you think about it. That's a good way of making sure that people will find value in your storefront overall, and it provides a different layer of competition against something like Valve and Steam, which we're going to get to in just a moment. You see, providing actual value to consumers, in my opinion, is going to be a far better call for people wanting to buy games on your platform or your storefront, more so than trying to lock away content behind a fictional wall or even a walled garden. And I think Xbox still sticking to actual physical formats would be a good move in general. It'll give people the opportunity to say, you know what? If I can buy my game there, if I can still be physical and it'll carry over, it could honestly pull away that 22% of people who only buy physical on PlayStation, thereby cutting away a large majority of users and moving them to Xbox or even the PC platform as well. This could be a huge win overall, but the problem is a lot of people still don't understand exactly what Xbox is trying to do, even with Project Helix. The fact that right now on my PC, I have OG Xbox games playing like Conker's Bad Fur Day and etc., all available on my PC right now that I could simply buy through that app. And yeah, I would absolutely love those games to hit Steam as well, seeing as how they're just using an emulator that's all over Windows, and it would be nice to have it on multiple storefronts. But the problem is those couple of games or even any other game that they put on there is not going to coerce me and convince me to basically stop shopping and putting my games on Steam and only getting them on the Xbox PC app as well. They'll get a couple of bucks here and there out of me every now and then, but that doesn't mean that they can turn me into an actual dedicated Xbox PC app user just because they put a couple of games behind an actual icon or even an online account. And I think that's where people are really going to get quite confused and where the statement from Jez Corden could really set things into motion. Well, set things into motion in the rumor mill, because people apparently also can't listen to words. With WCCF Tech on Twitter posting, Xbox may walk away from Steam as it reportedly prepares PC strategy shift amid a 2026 reset. Okay, let's stop right here on this concept in the first place. I gotta tell you guys something. 100% of 0 is going to be 0. It doesn't matter what percentage you try to put next to it. Once you multiply any number to 0 copies sold, guess what? That number is always going to be 0 copies sold. And I think that's going to be the problem if this idea, in fact, ever does come to fruition. This concept that people are actually believing that Xbox should pull away their games from Steam and no longer have it available on that platform, but only on the Xbox PC app, is not going to convince anyone to be shopping at the Xbox PC app for those specific games. And what's crazy is that even in the year of 2026, there are people who truly believe that exclusives are what's going to guide people to either buying a box or using an application, when we've seen firsthand knowledge of Epic Games doing that and still nobody using their own application. It also got found out as well by Dave Oshry from New Blood that if a game goes for free on the Epic Games Store but goes on sale on Steam, people would rather close the Epic Games Store, avoid getting a free game, and buy the game on Steam instead. Think about it from that perspective. It doesn't matter what games are free. It doesn't matter what games you lock behind your storefront. People would rather go ahead and spend their money on a platform that actually respects them rather than going around and giving their money to a corporation or a company or a storefront that just has a piece of content that they want to play. And that's where all of this is going to come crashing down to a head, where people do not understand that if Xbox does this, it could be one of the worst decisions they could in fact possibly make. But let's see what the article from WCCF Tech had to say and go from there. With WCCF Tech's article posting, following the acquisition spree spearheaded by former head Phil Spencer, Xbox is going through a challenging phase which led to multiple waves of layoffs, studio closures, and a radical change of how the business will have to operate to survive in these difficult market conditions. Among the things the company is planning and evaluating is how it operates on PC, and the discussions around this could give it a window to walk away from Steam, according to Windows Central, Jez Corden. With Jez Corden's quote saying, "I do know like Microsoft has some plans with regards to how they show up on PC," Corden said during the latest episode of the Xbox 2 podcast, "and I don't know what that pertains to with regards to Steam, but the plans that I know about, and I'm being very careful here, kind of suggest it gives them a window to potentially pull out of Steam. So I would not be shocked if eventually we do see a universe where Microsoft quits Steam." Considering how Xbox has always released their games on Steam as well as on its own store, such a change would be significant, especially as it would be difficult to get users to switch platforms. However, Jez Corden clarified on X that having the window to do it doesn't necessarily mean it will happen, as they would leave a lot of revenue on the table by walking away from Valve's storefront. With Jez Corden on Twitter posting, "I really doubt they will, but they're doing something that could potentially give them a window to do so. But there's just too much money to be left on the table, IMO. It was part of a bigger discussion." Now, here's the deal. There are some successes and there are quite a bit of failures of Xbox games on Steam. Games like South of Midnight, Avowed, and even games like Kiln and Keeper didn't really set the charts on fire on Steam. However, on the other hand, you've got games like Forza Horizon 6, and of course things like the Oblivion Remaster doing incredibly well on Steam too, and games that Xbox in fact supported with Game Pass, like Clair Obscur Expedition 33. So you've got a pretty good mixed bag of games, some not doing so great, others doing incredibly well. And for Xbox to possibly have a window to leave that kind of process, in my opinion, would be pretty insane. Mostly because, like I said before, people aren't going to want to switch from one platform to another just because you have a game as an exclusive. If that was the case, Epic Games would have destroyed Steam many, many years ago, which still hasn't happened, by the way. Good job, Tim. F***ing up. But the reality is going to be this. Xbox is going to want to make sure that they're getting as much money as possible. And I truly feel like they are in fact going to be competing with Steam in the long run, especially with things like SteamOS being a big factor and Linux encroaching onto Microsoft's own space in the operating system and even the enterprise space as well. The difference though is you've got a direct fight and two massive platforms basically waging war at each other through unconventional means. Steam going after Windows, removing things like AI, providing better accessibility with everything according to Proton, even playing old Windows games better than Windows themselves. Then you've got Microsoft and Xbox making Project Helix, making sure that Windows 11 is going to be the best place to play their games, and at the same time providing OG Xbox games and soon to be 360 games on the Xbox PC app through that space on time. The literal platform wars are here, but the problem is if Xbox is going to want to walk away from Valve or Steam, even if the window is open there for themselves in the future, I get it, having the window open for themselves and they make windows, that's kind of funny. Good job, Jez. You got one. Then in my opinion, they're going to have to do far more. They're going to have to get a better refund policy, better than what Valve has. They're going to have to fix their regional pricing so that people in other countries aren't going to be spending an arm and a leg to buy a game on their storefront. They're going to have to stop requiring those massive sign-ins for everybody else who can't access those video games in those specific countries. They're also going to have to provide more games on their storefront as well. The amount of games on the Xbox PC app is nowhere even close to like 1/1000th of what Valve offers you on a consistent basis. A place for forums would be good, community mods, anything on a workshop would be ideal. Everything that Valve does right now, Xbox has to actually copy one-to-one on their Xbox PC app and even on their console for the Helix if they want to compete in this space or have any way of even walking away from Valve in the first place. How many times do I have to update my Xbox PC app just for it to function correctly? And even then, the Windows updater doesn't even work half the time either. Or when I do a Windows update, everything breaks on its own. It's really not a fun experience overall. And if Helix is going to be more Windows-based and less console-based, then you're going to have those issues being completely ironed out, or people are not going to enjoy the experience they're having on that platform. Remember, Microsoft tried this during the Games for Windows Live era. It really didn't work well for them, and they had to ditch the entire thing, rendering a ton of games physically useless even in the digital space, unless they were patched or you were going around and pretty much pirating them. Xbox right now is in the perfect position. They're in the right position to fix their storefront, they're in the right position to put PlayStation in their place, and they're in the perfect position to make sure that people can in fact stay on Windows, but also be able to use Valve, Steam, and any other storefront that they want on an open platform with a soon-to-be PC console hybrid that's also should be having an open platform as well. But if they're going to be focusing on trying to remove access from other places and other stores, they're going to have to compete in different ways to earn that customer in the first place. And that's where I think Microsoft is really far behind. But you know what? I want to hear what you guys got to say about this in the comment section down below. If Xbox even chooses to pull their games off of Steam, would you use the Xbox PC app, or would you simply say, let them go. I'll find another way to play that game, or I'll sail the 7 seas instead. I want to hear what you guys got to say. But don't worry, there's even more if you haven't caught up yet. As of right now, more than likely if you're watching this, I'm actually streaming on this same channel. We're hanging out during the day, Monday to Friday, 10:30 a.m. to around 2 p.m., streaming games and helping you get through your workday. If you still want to see more, come on down and hang out. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. And if you want to see even more of this kind of content and more live streams, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 14K. With all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you next time.